If you're currently involved in a job search, or you're thinking that this is something that you want to engage in soon, then we have to acknowledge that interviews are the key gateway into any new job. In fact, you're going to have to pass a series of interviews in order to get to the point where they offer you the job and you can make that move. And so knowing what not to do in order to try and get that first interview or that series of interviews, that's a really important thing. And that's what we're going to talk about in this short video. 7 things not to do when you're trying to get in for that first interview. Hello, my name is Stephen Wright. I'm a career coach here at Career Mentor, and we help high-performing financial services professionals make their next smart career move. So let's go through these things. And the first thing is, and it is really random, but people still do it, is to send a cold email to the person who they think might be the right decision maker with a covering letter and with their CV, hoping that they're going to get lucky. And often that falls on deaf ears, and people are just not going to respond because you haven't necessarily found the right person. You have no idea what they're looking for, what their appetite to hire is. And actually, in many ways, it's a bit of a waste of effort. So sending out cold emails is not the thing to do. Second thing is reaching out to network contacts who you haven't spoken to for some time. If you're going to reach out to somebody, then there wants to be some degree of warmth and recognition in that relationship. And if you haven't spoken to somebody for 3 or 4 years, they're not particularly going to be inclined to want to help you out. And that's why it's so important to have a system whereby everybody who you count as being in your professional network gets contacted at least once or twice a year. Maybe it's just a message, maybe you have a cup of coffee or a lunch or whatever it might be, but you are in contact with them. You're the one who's reaching out. And all of this networking is underpinned with the idea that your job is to serve them and add value to them, add value much more so than you could ever expect coming back. And that way, when you do need to reach out, there's a much higher level of goodwill and willingness to help you out. So reaching out to cold network contacts is probably not something to do. Next thing that's related to that is over asking. So if you do reach out to a network contact, then asking for too much is possibly not going to work. If you're asking to meet somebody's direct report or the manager of the firm, and it's just a little bit too much from a political point of view. Another over ask might be that you are going to take up too much of their time. So something which is a low ask but is nonetheless highly valuable for you, like an online introduction, something like that, is much more likely to work. Allied to that is the idea that when you do ask for help from a network, you're a bit fuzzy and unclear about what it is that you're trying to say. If you've unfortunately been made redundant, then reaching out to your entire network to let them know that you've been let go is probably a waste of goodwill. Much better is to go back to those, or go to those network contacts after you've done the thinking about what is the next step, what exactly you want to do, and the very specific way in which that person can help you out. So that's all really very important, not to be confused about over asking or being vague when you're asking for help. Next point to think about is lack of clarity in your messaging. So quite often I spend time on LinkedIn. I think it's an unbelievably powerful platform, especially for people who are looking for a job and looking to market themselves more broadly. And when I see LinkedIn profiles which have a confusing message, I find it a bit frustrating for them because they're not allowing the market to see exactly what they do. And so ensuring that you really think very carefully about what it is that you want to offer to the marketplace, what your target market is going to be, and then ensuring that the messaging in your LinkedIn profile with all the keywords and so on really does give a very clear and singular offer of value. And then of course that needs to be replicated in your CV so that both your CV and your LinkedIn profile are lined up, one core message for one core audience. Next point perhaps is not in your control, and this is around timing, but I think it's worth acknowledging that if you get your timing wrong, then that may be a reason why you're not gaining traction. So it might be that the subsector that you're in is in somewhat of a particular point in the cycle. It might be that they're actually in a structural decline. It might be that the business that you're reaching out to is in a particular place, in a not good place, where they're in trouble. That said, quite often firms that are in trouble will, with a sense of urgency, reach out to those people who they really feel are going to be able to fix a problem, and they need to do that rapidly. But if you find a company that's in trouble, generally speaking, it's not going to be in growth mode, it's not going to be hiring. It might also be that you simply contact a firm where everything's fine. They're not particularly growing, they're not shrinking, they're not in trouble, they just don't have any need to hire just at the moment. The other and final thing to say about this is that there can be, for some parts of the market, hiring seasons. So if we're coming to the end of the year and key hires have still not been made, then there can be a rush to get that done so that people can say that on their key results for the year, yes, we did manage to make that hire. Equally, in the beginning of the year, people will be hired because they want to build up the team that's going to take the plans forward for the next year. And also they may need to replace people who they've lost. So there can be a seasonal element to hiring as well. So just bear in mind the timing aspect of this. Not something you can control, but certainly something that you can be aware of and work with. Number 6 is some decision makers who are looking to hire will be obvious and active in the marketplace. They're reaching out to you, they're using recruiters, they're placing ads online and so on. And there will be quite a number of decision makers who are thinking about their plans and have yet to pull the trigger. And if you can access those people who are not yet actively looking, but will be looking at some point, accessing them is clearly a great thing to do. So not only focusing on active decision makers can be a mistake. Final thing to say, number 7, is that often I've seen with some job seekers, job searchers, that they can be focused only on one or two particular channels. So for example, they're only doing online applications, or they're only meeting network people for coffee. Or maybe they hope that by building a relationship with a particular recruiter, something might happen. I think that the final mistake I would talk about is that there are quite a number of different access channels to be used in order to get that all-important interview, and using too few of them, hoping that one of them is going to work, especially if you're not particularly executing that particular channel well, that can be an issue as well. So there we go. 7 things to think about when you're in your job search, trying to get that first interview, which will hopefully lead to others and lead to the job that you're looking for. I hope you found that useful. I'll be putting the blog that I wrote about this in the comments below. If you found this useful, then please do give us a big thumbs up and a like in the section below, because it really does help with the algorithms and helps us get our message out to other people. If you feel that this might be useful for somebody that you know well, then please do feel free to share it. And if you'd like to have a chat about your career, or indeed the job search that you're involved in now or intending to do, then please reach out. All my contact details are at the top of my LinkedIn profile, and you'll be able to reach out to me then. It'll be a pleasure to have that conversation. Okay, thanks very much.